Welcome, Trojans. This is Jeff. I'm just sending out a little presentation to get you ready for Wednesday's staff meeting for October 14th, 2020. We have an Ed Camp, a virtual Ed Camp. I think it's going to be amazing. And I just want to get you ready for it. If you don't have time for this, shut this off and keep doing what you're doing. It's about a 12, 13-minute video to give you a little bit of grounding before we get started. There is a learning virus, and it is not us. The learning virus is what's been handed to us by the current pandemic. I think most people would say, yep, that's our life. We know that this COVID-19 is something that's created our lives to change rapidly. What used to be a place where we would collaborate with our students is now a place where we are isolated from our students and from each other. And even though we're finding ways to overcome that, it's still really hard. Which brings me to Wednesday, whether you're watching this today or it's happening tomorrow. I think it's just a great opportunity for us to kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So our why for meeting when it comes to Ed Camps is to gain important collaborative expertise to widen our individual reach to impact learning. That's what it's all about, to learn from our local experts. And depending on what the topic is we all have our, our unique expertise. So tomorrow or Wednesday is going to be a great opportunity for distance learning. We know that if we put to work strong professional development, it can actually help enhance our learning and even help move kids along, even at a greater rate than 1 year for what would be considered average growth. So again, that all is dependent on what the information is, who's delivering it, how well it's being received, and so forth. But PD does have an effect size of 0.62 when done well. So like I said, we have the local experts. Many of you guys are that. So let's have a great session. Next thing is, we know this virus has handed us all kinds of issues. We know boredom has gone up. We know anxiety has gone up. We know depression, more TV watching can lead to those things, as long as we're not maintaining a healthy balance, whatever that might be. We have families on state aid and welfare, all of those things. And this is pre-COVID. This is the work of John Hattie and Visible Learning. They talked a lot about, or shared a lot about, the negative effects that go into education. And then the positive ones are anything that are, anything that's above a 0.01. And technology and distance education, that has a positive effect. Not much of one when you think 0.4 is the hinge point for 1 year's worth of growth. Distance education is shown to have a 0.14. Family structure has a 0.16. Extracurriculars, just those in themselves can give a student another half year's worth of growth. And a lot of that comes through the motivational factors and wanting to stay on top of things. So that just tells you a little bit about what our current world looks like and some of the possible effects. John Hattie has written some pretty outstanding papers that educators can lean on. One is called The Politics of Distraction. The second one, which is really what our Ed Camp is all about. But what he says about distractions is they get in the way of a school's ability to move all students along with at least 1 year's worth of gain. In that separate publication, he addressed the politics of collaboration. Sometimes that's a really hard thing to do because the politics of distraction can get in the way of that. Hattie's claim is the largest barrier to student learning is within school variability. Hang on to that one for a second. His research and the research of other educational leaders bears this out in a very viable claim that we have more variation within an individual schoolhouse between teachers and learning than we do from schoolhouse to schoolhouse to schoolhouse. So that falls right into his claim of we really need to work on collaboration, which I love. That's always kind of been where I've come from, but that's my bias. It may not be yours, but I'm going to try to be a little more convincing that this really is the antidote for this virus of learning that we're experiencing right now. Next thing is, together we can be the cure. And we're already showing that we're the cure. Many of our kids are thriving right now. Some of them have told me they have better grades than they've ever had before since high school started. Together, we're the cure. And here's some proof of that. And again, this is based on Hattie's research. Strong classroom cohesion, finding a healthy balance of surface to deep learning, You really want to balance out where your kids are at in terms of the things you're asking them to know, the things you're asking them to perform. It's got to be just hard enough to keep their interests, but not so hard they're going to give up, and definitely not so easy they're going to get bored and move on. We want to build trust. We want to use errors as an opportunity to help build that trust. When you have kids try things that are hard and when they don't do well, we try to help them figure out what they need to do better the next time. And I think we're really good at that. Getting feedback from others about their effects. And that's really what today's PD and our PLC work is all about, is working with one another, using deliberate practice to attain learning. And that's, the more you can be very clear with your students what the performance tasks are going to be for a particular lesson in order for them to be able to see their own success. That's huge. The more we can give kids choice in that matter, the higher that 0.79 can actually go up, because we know that choice also has an effect size. Explicit student success criteria, and that kind of goes along with our work with learning targets and success criteria. It has an amazing impact on learning. Working together to evaluate our impact, and that's what we do in PLCs, and that's what we're going to do today or Wednesday. Collective teacher efficacy has a 1.39, so over 3 times the I guess influence potential to raise at least 1 year's worth of academic growth in a student. I don't know if you can get 3 years out of that, but at least it's got the strength of getting a lot done. And what collective teacher efficacy is, if you haven't heard that term before, that phrase, it's really the way we feel about each other's professionals. I'm going to work hard. I know you're working hard. We know we're all working smart. We're going to help our kids get from A to B to C to D to E to F to Z and get them out of this place so they have a great life ahead of them. And we know everybody's rowing the same direction to make that happen. Resources available to you. If you want to check these out, 2 very important papers written by Hattie back around 2014-15. And then the tasks that he talked about in the collaborative piece of the politics of is we got to get away from always trying to fix issues or always trying to identify blame. We see that a lot in our society. But we really need to work towards coming together and building more collaborative expertise on behalf of our students. We want to emphasize process and progression, and this will help lead us to higher achievement. We've done some really important work with learning targets and success criteria here at Auburn High, and this distance learning, I think it just makes it even more important to put on the forefront, because what I see, and I'm experiencing this both as a presenter and as a learner, is I get distracted when I'm doing it through a computer. And it's not because I'm not trying to stick with it. It's just I got more things around me that are going to grab my attention. But if I'm really keyed in to what the presenter wants me to learn, or what the outcome's going to be, or what it should look like, it's easy for me to tap back in. If I got distracted, I can get back into it. The same thing for those learning targets and success criteria that you share with your kids. Get them to talk about that. Get them to explain it to one another, and not just at the start of a lesson. Quiz them about halfway through and ask them, what is it we're supposed to learn? Somebody should be able to say it in their own words. And this is so true in distance learning. The next thing is task 2, agree on what a year's progress looks like in all subject areas. Yeah, we're going to hit less standards in distance learning, but we're still going to key in on the most important ones. And the kids can still wow us with what they can learn and what they can apply. So let's not give up on that. Teachers working with colleagues to support and engage in a healthy level of discourse to keep achievement on track. We don't want to dumb down our curriculum. We may want to lessen it to a degree, but as far as the demands we have on our students and on their incredible brains, let's keep working on that. Task 3, expect a year's worth of growth as the standard in distance learning. Even so, right? We want to have positive trajectories for our kids. We want to speak life into their academic being. A lot of our kids have a feeling about who they are as a student. I might be a C student, but my teacher thinks I'm a B student. Guess what? I can start becoming more of a B student, especially if my teacher can give me some ideas on what it looks like to be a B student or an A student. I may not even know as a C student what that might look like. So make sure we continue letting kids know what that looks like, and that we expect, only the best from them. How to intervene with the right amount of intervention, not getting distracted with the factors outside of our control, is one of the tasks that we have to be mindful of. Another one is developing new assessments and evaluation tools. And again, this was pre-COVID, but now that we're in COVID, I think that's even forcing us to even think about this a little bit more. We can't grade those long essay papers that we used to in English. We can't give these long tests. We don't have time for that. We're spending more time doing test or lesson prep and more time working with individual kids in their emails. We got to be really smart about the way we assess kids in something that works for the world we're living in. We got to find things that are more observable, more visible to us to assess where they're at. And then also when we are grading kids, we don't want to do it as a way where we're just doing it in a way to categorize where our kids are. We're using our assessments to teach us what we need to do in response to where our kids are at. Task 5, taking responsibility for the impact of everyone in the school and the progress of students. We don't want to burn you guys out, and we need kids to take more agency in what they're doing. And it's okay to tell them that kind of in your own words. They're not going to understand what agency is, but talk to them about ownership, talk to them about responsibility, talk to them about, kind of serving their own brain, getting themselves ready for the next level, because they're all going to get there. So make sure our kids are major players in all of this, and let them know that's what you expect. And then inspire them and motivate them and celebrate with them when they're doing those things. They will respond. Task 6, ensure teachers have expertise in diagnoses and interventions and evaluations. So your expertise is where it's at. It's going to continue to grow. And if you are someone who's still in that growth phase, and you're feeling like, hey, I need a little extra help, we've got help. We've got something called the Apex Intervention Tutorials. And depending on how you want to use that, it could really serve your kids. If you keep it away from them, it can't serve them. If you show it to them and kind of launch them with it, they can work with it. If you try to filter it into what you're doing, maybe at the end of the class or one day a week to kind of show them the power behind it, they could even do more with that. Task 7, use the wealth of knowledge to scale up success in our school. And that's what we're doing with our PD on Wednesday. Hattie says we got to stop ignoring what we know and scale up success. There's all kinds of success happening at Auburn High School. I wish you guys could get into all the classrooms like administrators can. I try to share, without using names, some of the really good things going on in our building. And sometimes I'll ask teachers for permission. Hey, can I share this with other people and let them know you're the go-to person? And everybody's on board with that. According to Hattie, we have to confront any narratives. My class is just different. That's putting yourself in a silo. We can't do that if we're really going to try to flatten the variations of teaching and learning around here. Task 8, and this is the one I wanted to read out loud. Teaching and learning are not equal opportunity endeavors, okay? We've all been to school. We know all of our teachers are different. There are variabilities across all schools and within all schools, and even to a higher degree within Auburn High School than between if we're comparing ourselves with Auburn Mountain View. Not as many variables, but here in our own school, more. So that's why we have to come together. What we should endeavor to do is equalize the impact from the varied confluences of teaching or teacher practices and student effort to develop a guaranteed and viable curriculum with agreements as to what our students could know and must know. And then our students need to go out and do that as their evidence. Choosing to collaborate and share best ideas and practices is the evidence best pathway to go. And that's based on Hattie's research. And we got to do that to flatten the variances within an entire schoolhouse. We're doing that. We're going to keep doing that. And when we get back in brick and mortar, we're going to be that much better. Teachers cannot fully achieve the highest student achievement without one another. We know that. The collaborative process is a decision each individual needs to authentically make for themselves. And I hope you will. And I know that sometimes that feels like quite a commitment, but gosh, we got some amazing professionals in this building. And you're probably one of them. You probably just haven't had your opportunity to share what you know yet. And I'm just impressed. Every time I open up my email, someone has shared something with somebody. So let's keep that up. Let's have a great PD today. Let's get to 3 sessions if we can. Everything's going to be available async. So if you have to make it up, you can. If you want to go back and watch it again or watch something you missed, you can do that too. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate everything everybody's doing.